What's up, everybody? My name is Mike. I am the American Analyst, and today we are going to be taking a look at an opinion piece from the illustrious New York Times and a Mr. David Leonhardt. So, without any further ado, let's get into it. All right, so let's jump right into this. First off, before we do anything, I do not know this person, Mr. David Leonhardt, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Verified blue checkmark on Twitter. Very impressive follower count, 134,000 followers. And actually followed by some fairly impressive people, too. Lindsey Graham, Adam Schiff, I think Lindsey Graham is a senator, and I know for a fact Schiff is in the House of Representatives. But I do not know him. I have nothing personal against him. And that's all I'm going to say for now. Let's go ahead and jump into this article. Okay, so, first, we got a picture of in Dubuque protester. No one is above the law. All right, so the United States is not an authoritarian country. Yeah, real big brain, real big brain stuff right off the bat from David. President Trump has failed to carry out many of his authoritarian impulses, like, say, banning Muslims from entering the United States or jailing his political opponents. And yet, the events that have taken place in the Senate this week would nonetheless have been unimaginable for most of our modern history. They are the makings of authoritarianism, in which the party in power decides it can reject democratic principles for the simple reason that it holds power. So first off, I want to explain this. I do not speak French. You may be surprised to learn. So this means l'état c'est Trump. This is a famous phrase. Well, it's a what do you call it? It's a clever change, I guess. Well, it's a phrase by King Louis XIV of France. He said, l'état c'est moi. And I've seen two different interpretations of this, meaning either I am the state or the state is me. So by saying, instead of saying moi, they replace it with Trump, implying obviously that he is the absolute monarch of America. So now, that's that out of the way. And then that delves right here into this sentence in the second paragraph. They are the makings of authoritarianism. See, and I think right here he's trying to be fair, or I think he's trying to be fair, or he's trying to appear to be fair. I don't know this person. But he says the party in power instead of the Republican Party. So he's trying to make it an argument for, we don't want to do this because, or we want to stop President Trump because it's going to set a bad precedent, which I would agree with, but I think it's fairly obvious to which party he is referring. And it's right there in the next sentence. A majority of senators, all Republican, are not interested in hearing evidence of presidential wrongdoing. Okay, so this is the paragraph about Alan Dershowitz. So Dershowitz, who is President Trump's, I think he's his head counsel. He's definitely one of his lawyers. So he came out, Alan Dershowitz, and he said that anything the president does to help him in his reelection is in the national interest, and therefore cannot be impeached because it's in the national interest. And the nation, according to this argument, is indistinguishable from the president. I think this is his best argument of the piece. But I think that he's presenting it in an uncharitable way. There's a way you can present this that is basically saying all political supreme authority in our country is derived from the people. And if the president is taking actions that are in the people's interest, then they are not able to be impeached because the majority of people want them. So that would be the charitable way to put it. He's obviously putting it in the uncharitable way. And here we go. That if that leader does it and they think it's good for the public, then it's legitimate. Yeah, I think this was phrased poorly by Mr. Dershowitz. Hopefully I phrased it at least a little bit better. But again, I think he does have an argument here that just because the majority of people want something does not mean that it is the correct thing, which I actually agree with. He doesn't go right out and go that far with it, but I think that's the crux of the argument, and I do agree with that, but I think he's presenting it in a manner which would be unfavorable to the president. Okay, so moving on. Susan Hennessy of Lawfare. Never heard of Lawfare. I don't think people fully grasp the constitutional danger of this moment. If the Senate were to refuse to call relevant witnesses with direct testimony of grave presidential wrongdoing, then we can no longer understand the impeachment to be a genuine check on executive overreach. Impeachment is merely a measure of how many members of the president's party sit in the House, or sit in the Senate, rather. So, I would say to this, yeah, it is. That's what this impeachment has turned into. 100% agree with that. I would say you did that. you were the ones that had done that. If you wanted it to not be that, perhaps you should have considered charging him with a crime, which they did not do. The one thing that you have not heard people say, right or wrong, the impeachment. I can save that, my personal opinion for that, for a different video. But right or wrong, you're not hearing people say that he's being charged with a crime. And I think if you wanted it to be bipartisan, that is what you would have needed to do. So, yeah, I would say it certainly is. It certainly is a measure of how many members of the president's party sit in the Senate. It certainly is, but that is a direct cause of the people who brought the impeachment on. All right, so this is my favorite part. This is absolute gold right here. My colleague, Jamel Bowie, the president could do far more than solicit dirt from foreign governments. Oh. He could have his political opponents arrested, as mentioned earlier, or he could promise pardons to supporters who physically intimidated Democratic voters. To protect my re-election and thus the national interest, I am ordering the National Guard to occupy and shut down Democratic precincts in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, as well as Arizona and North Carolina. This was a breathtaking paragraph from Ms. Bowie. I cannot. If you think that I was in the Army for about 4 years, and if you think that particularly people who are in these precincts, National Guard members, if you think they would actually follow this order from any president, you have a grave misunderstanding of what exactly the character of the typical United States Army member, or United States military member is. There's no way that they would follow this order, particularly the National Guard. There's just no way. That's why to think that he's going to be ordering the National Guard to mobilize and occupy their own states, there's just no way. This is an amazing paragraph to me, and this is where they just lose it. Like I said, I give them some credit. I think they do have a good argument here, but then once you start talking, you're talking to your colleague and you're saying, like, well, if we don't stop him now, next thing we know, the National Guard could be coming for us. Like, all right, okay. So then they get back to the Dershowitz. I shouldn't say they. Then David gets back to the Dershowitz argument. And he says that the National Review is saying that he's wrong. Well, we already talked about that. I don't think I need to go into that anymore. Okay, so silver lining. Lying. All right. They keep digging. They can keep digging into corruption and power, but also. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay, I remember this. They keep digging into. Yeah, here it is. Is that Senate Republicans' brazenness makes it easier for House Democrats to continue investigating Trump. I mean, so they're already saying, like, if this fails, we're not going to stop. We're just not going to stop. We've got the next thing on the back burner right away. And they do. They say that a little bit lower. Like, all right, so look, all our last witnesses didn't work. Well, then we're just going to subpoena Trump himself. Then John Bolton. Then Mick Mulvaney. Then Rudy Giuliani. Blah, blah, blah. I'm just so tired of all this. This is so boring. It's so stupid. Can we just move on with our lives? Please. Whatever. Okay. I think that's probably a good place to leave it. Again, I don't know David. I thought he had one good point in this article, and that's probably pretty much it. Anyway, all right. You can see I'm getting a little frustrated. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate it. Second video of the channel. Eventually, I'm going to be, I shouldn't say sometime this week, I'm going to be coming out with a video about what my channel is supposed to be, what I intend to do, and my plans for the sort of short and medium term future. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, I should have that video up. It'll be better edited or than one of these, which is this type of video is what I'll typically do during the week. And then Saturday, Sunday. Well, we'll see. I don't want to make any promises just yet. So that is it. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Thank you all for listening. This is Mike, the American Analyst. Follow me on Twitter, Minds, and subscribe to me on YouTube, and be sure to hit that bell notification. I'll be coming out with new videos every single day for your viewing enjoyment. Have a good one.